No one wanted this horse until she uncovered his darkest secret. The heat was unbearable. The Nevada sun blazed down on the small, dusty auction yard, casting long shadows over a restless crowd. The scent of sweat, hay, and desperation hung in the air. Horses shifted in their pens, eyes wide with nervous energy as auctioneers shouted numbers over the murmur of potential buyers. Some were here for business, others for a quick bargain. Samantha Carter was here for neither. She hadn't planned on coming today. Her small ranch, Silver Sky Sanctuary, already had more horses than she could afford to care for. But something had pulled her here, a feeling she couldn't explain, and now she knows why. At the far end of the lot, separated from the others, stood a stallion unlike any she had ever seen. He was jet black, his coat so smooth it seemed to swallow the sunlight. A few streaks of dust marred his legs, but even covered in grime, he was striking. His mane was thick and wild, falling over his neck in tangled waves. But it wasn't his beauty that made Samantha's breath catch. It was his eyes. Golden, deep, piercing, and unblinking. They weren't just looking around like the other horses' eyes. They were watching, studying, calculating. The air around him felt different. Horses are prey animals. When nervous, they stomp, shuffle, or neigh. This one didn't. He stood still, muscles tight, head slightly lowered as if daring someone to come closer. There was no fear in his stance, only defiance. A whisper spread through the crowd. That's him. The cursed one. Samantha turned toward the voice. A short, heavy-set man with a sunburnt face shook his head. That's Ghost, he muttered to a nearby buyer. Been through 5 owners in 2 years. Nobody can keep him. Spooked a rancher so bad he swears the horse unlocked his own stall and walked out. Kicked another man clear through a fence. He snorted. Damn thing's haunted. Samantha ignored him and kept her eyes on the stallion. Ghost. The name suited him. She glanced at the auction listing. No papers, no known history, just a price so low it barely covered a bag of feed. A thin, grizzled man in a sweat-stained cowboy hat approached, adjusting a cigarette between his fingers. You look interested, he said, voice rough, like he'd spent his life shouting over windstorms. That one's bad luck, lady. Samantha folded her arms. What's his story? The man, Carl, according to his auction badge, shrugged. Came in with a batch of Mustangs from a busted ranch out west. No brand, no records, just a warning from the last guy who owned him. Don't turn your back on him. Samantha studied Ghost. He wasn't acting wild. He wasn't trying to break free or attack the gate. He just stood, watching. She stepped closer. His ears flicked toward her, but he didn't move. She could feel his breath in the air, slow and steady. He's not bad luck, she said finally. He's scared. Carl scoffed. Call it whatever you want, but I'd think twice before bidding. Some horses ain't meant to be saved. Samantha knew better. Horses labeled as dangerous were often misunderstood. They weren't born mean. Something had happened to this one, something deep. The auctioneer cleared his throat. Lot number 47, stallion, approximately 5 years old. No papers. Bidding starts at $200. The crowd murmured. 200? That was almost nothing. A few people whispered but kept their hands down. Nobody wanted him. Carl gave Samantha a sideways glance. Go on, you're the only one crazy enough. Her heart pounded. Her rescue ranch was full. She didn't need another horse, especially not one this unpredictable. But as she locked eyes with Ghost, something inside her clicked. She raised her hand. 200. Silence. The auctioneer looked around, waiting. No other bids? Going once? Going twice? Sold. A rush of heat filled Samantha's chest. Relief? Fear? She wasn't sure. Carl chuckled. Well, lady, good luck. You'll need it. The trailer rocked violently. Samantha kept glancing at her rearview mirror as she drove. She could see Ghost shifting inside, his hooves thudding against the metal floor. He wasn't just nervous. He was angry. A radio crackled. Are you sure about this? It was Ethan, her closest friend and the ranch's handyman. He was following behind in a second truck loaded with feed and supplies. Samantha sighed. Not even a little. Ethan's voice held a note of warning. That horse doesn't act right. You might be biting off more than you can chew." She tightened her grip on the wheel. "He's not a monster, Ethan. He's just been through something. I want to figure out what." Silence. Then, "Just don't get yourself killed trying." Samantha smiled, but didn't respond. The gate to Silver Sky Sanctuary creaked open as Samantha pulled in. The other horses, rescues of all kinds, turned their heads as she backed the trailer into a paddock. Ghost exploded out as soon as the door opened. His hooves struck the ground with a thunderous impact. He didn't run or bolt. He paced, his muscles rippling, his ears flicking at every sound. Samantha stood by the fence, watching. The other horses eyed him warily but didn't challenge him. They could sense it too. This horse was different. "You're safe now," she murmured. Ghost didn't believe her, not yet. As she turned to leave, she felt his eyes on her back, watching, waiting, like he knew something she didn't. And deep inside, Samantha knew this was just the beginning. Samantha had worked with troubled horses before. She knew the signs: fearful eyes, tense muscles, flinching at every sudden noise. But Ghost was different. For the first 3 days at Silver Sky Sanctuary, he did not settle. He paced his paddock relentlessly, his hooves leaving deep grooves in the dirt. He didn't eat when anyone was watching. He didn't rest either. Samantha had checked on him late at night and found him standing stiff, staring at the horizon, as if waiting for something. Or someone. Ethan leaned on the fence beside her on the 4th morning, chewing on a piece of hay. "That horse has trust issues worse than anyone I've ever seen." Samantha sighed, rubbing her tired eyes. "He's not just scared. He's waiting for something. Or someone." Ethan watched Ghost, frowning. "What do you mean?" She hesitated before speaking. "He doesn't act like a normal rescue. Even abused horses usually relax a little when they realize they're safe. But him? He never lets his guard down. It's like..." She trailed off, searching for the right words. "Like he knows something we don't," Ethan finished. Samantha nodded. Ghost stopped pacing suddenly and turned his golden eyes on them. Listening, watching. A shiver ran down Samantha's spine. Determined to gain Ghost's trust, Samantha tried a different approach. She spent hours just sitting outside his paddock, reading aloud, humming softly, letting him get used to her presence. The first sign of progress came on the 5th evening. Ghost stopped pacing. He still stood stiffly, his ears twitching, but he didn't retreat to the farthest corner like before. He even flicked an ear toward her when she spoke. Encouraged, she took things a step further. She picked up a brush and held it out, waiting. Ghost's muscles tensed, his nostrils flared. But instead of bolting, he lowered his head slightly, studying the brush as if it held some kind of secret. Samantha's heart pounded. For the first time, he was curious instead of just wary. She stayed still, barely breathing, until Ghost took a slow, hesitant step toward her. Then, a sharp gust of wind blew through the ranch. A loose rope from the tack room fluttered across the ground. Ghost exploded into motion. He reared up violently, kicking at the air, his eyes wide with panic. Samantha scrambled back as his front hooves crashed down inches from the fence post. He spun in circles, snorting hard, his entire body trembling. It wasn't just fear. It was terrifying. Ethan ran over. What the hell happened? Samantha's heart hammered. She pointed at the rope. Ghost's eyes were locked onto it, his whole body frozen in a fight-or-flight response. Ethan frowned. Why is he scared of a rope? Samantha didn't answer. She already knew. That night, Samantha sat in her office, staring at Ghost's paperwork. It wasn't much. Just a short note from the auction house. No history, no papers. That didn't sit right with her. Every horse had a past. She opened her laptop and started searching. She posted a photo of Ghost's thin scar, the one barely visible beneath his thick mane, on an online forum for equine rescue workers. Within an hour, she got a response. That's not a normal scar. It's a brand. Her stomach clenched as she read the message. The brand had been used years ago by a now-defunct equestrian research facility, a facility that had been shut down after accusations of illegal horse training practices. A chill ran down her spine. Ghost hadn't just been abandoned. He had been erased. The next morning, Samantha was brushing one of her older horses when Ethan walked up, holding an envelope. "This was on the gate," he said. His voice was tense. She frowned and took it. Inside was a single sheet of paper with a typed message. "Stop digging. Let the horse go." Samantha's fingers tightened around the paper. Her pulse pounded in her ears. "Who left this?" she asked. Ethan shook his head. No clue. But whoever it was, they didn't want to be seen. She looked toward Ghost's paddock. He was watching her. Did he sense the danger too? Samantha took a slow breath and squared her shoulders. Whoever had tried to erase Ghost's past had failed, and she wasn't about to let them win now. That night, sleep wouldn't come. Samantha sat on her porch, the note still clutched in her hand. The wind had picked up, rustling the trees. The ranch was quiet, but something felt off. Then, a sound, a metallic click near the paddock. She shot to her feet. Grabbing her flashlight, she moved swiftly toward the noise. Her pulse raced as she reached the fence and swept the beam across the ground. Then she saw it. A small black device, half buried in the dirt near the gate. Her breath hitched. She crouched and picked it up. It was no bigger than her palm, smooth and cool to the touch. A tracker. A sick feeling coiled in her gut. The ghost wasn't just being watched. Someone was coming for him. She turned toward the paddock. Ghost was standing perfectly still, his golden eyes locked onto hers. Like he already knew, like he had been waiting for this moment. Samantha clenched the tracker in her fist. If they thought she was going to back down, they were wrong. This was just the beginning.
Samantha barely slept that night. She sat at her kitchen table, the small black tracker resting in front of her like a ticking time bomb. Someone had planted it near Ghost's paddock. Someone who knew exactly where he was. Her mind raced with possibilities. Whoever had owned Ghost before wanted him back. But why? If he had been discarded at an auction, why were they still watching him? And more importantly, what were they willing to do to get him? Samantha tightened her jaw. They weren't getting him back. The next morning, Samantha drove into town to meet with Detective Laura Rise, a friend who had helped her with animal cruelty cases before. Laura took one look at the tracker and frowned. This isn't standard ranching equipment. This is military grade. Samantha's stomach dropped. Military? Why would someone put this on a horse? Laura leaned back in her chair, studying her. I don't know, but I can find out. She tapped on her laptop, pulling up a database. After a few minutes, she exhaled sharply. This isn't just any tracker. It's registered to a private security firm, one with a reputation for making problems disappear. Samantha's pulse quickened. Disappear how? Laura hesitated. Let's just say if they want something, they don't stop until they get it. Samantha clenched her fists. Well, they're not getting Ghost. Laura nodded. Then you'd better be ready for a fight. That evening, Samantha installed motion-activated cameras around Ghost's paddock and set up extra security lights. Ethan wasn't convinced it would be enough. You need to move him. Samantha crossed her arms. Move him where? He just got here. He's finally starting to trust me. Ethan gave her a hard look. Trust won't matter if he's stolen in the middle of the night. She wanted to argue, but deep down, she knew he was right. They had to be one step ahead. Later that night, Samantha lay awake, listening to every sound outside. The wind howled, rattling the barn doors. The horses shifted in their stalls. Then, a low metallic creak. She bolted upright. Something or someone was at the front gate. Heart pounding, she grabbed her shotgun and slipped outside. The floodlights flickered to life, casting long shadows across the ranch. She scanned the area, her breath held tight in her chest. Nothing. Then, hoofbeats! Fast and panicked. Samantha turned sharply. Ghost was standing near the fence, ears pinned, nostrils flared. He was staring into the darkness beyond the gate. A cold wave of fear rolled through her. He wasn't scared of the wind. He had seen something. Samantha swung her flashlight toward the gate, but by the time the beam hit it, whoever had been there was already gone. The next morning, Ethan arrived earlier than usual. He found Samantha already at work, checking every latch, every fence post, every weak spot in their security. You didn't sleep, did you?" he asked. Samantha shook her head. "Somebody was here last night. Ghosts saw them." Ethan cursed under his breath. "We can't wait any longer. We have to move him tonight." Samantha hesitated. She hated the idea of uprooting Ghost again, especially when he had just started trusting her. But if they waited too long, she shuddered at the thought. "Fine," she said. "We'll move him to Maggie's ranch. It's remote and they won't find him there." Ethan nodded. "I'll get the trailer ready." That night, Samantha led Ghost into the trailer. His hooves clanked against the metal floor, and for the first time, he didn't fight her. It was almost like he knew. Ethan started the truck, pulling out onto the quiet road leading away from the ranch. Samantha followed behind in her own vehicle, keeping her eyes on the trailer. She checked her mirrors. The road was empty, for now. They drove in tense silence, the only sound the occasional rustling of the wind through the trees. Then, headlights appeared behind them. Samantha's heart slammed against her ribs. A black SUV! It sped up, closing the distance between them fast. "Ethan," she said into the radio, her voice tight, "we're not alone." "I see them," he muttered. "Hold on." The SUV swerved to the side, trying to pass. Ethan jerked the truck to block them, but they rammed into his bumper, sending the trailer jolting sideways. Ghost whinnied in panic from inside. Samantha's hands tightened on the wheel. She had to do something. Thinking fast, she hit the gas and pulled up beside the SUV. The driver, a man in black tactical gear, glanced at her, his expression cold and calculated. Then he reached for something. A weapon. Samantha reacted on pure instinct. She swerved hard, slamming her truck into the SUV's side. The impact sent it careening toward the edge of the road, its tires screeching. For a moment, she thought they had won. Then the SUV recovered, and it was coming back. Up ahead, the road split, one path leading to Maggie's ranch, the other to a narrow bridge over a rocky ravine. Samantha made a split-second decision. "Follow me," she shouted into the radio. She veered toward the bridge. Ethan hesitated, then understood her plan. He swerved in behind her, leading the trailer onto the narrow crossing. The SUV followed, but they had underestimated the weight of the trailer. As Ethan sped up, the bridge creaked ominously under the pressure. Samantha floored the gas, racing ahead to safety. The SUV, too heavy and too fast, reached the weakest part of the bridge, and the wood snapped. With a sickening crunch, the SUV lurched and plunged into the ravine below. Samantha skidded to a stop, her hands trembling on the wheel. Silence. Then a single distant splash. Ethan exhaled sharply. That was insane. Samantha barely heard him. She was already climbing out of her truck, running to the trailer. She threw open the doors. Ghost stood inside, wide-eyed but unharmed. She let out a shaky breath. "We did it, boy," he snorted as if unimpressed. Samantha laughed, despite the adrenaline still rushing through her veins. All right. You did most of the work." She turned to Ethan. "Let's get out of here before more of them show up." Ethan nodded, agreed. As they drove toward Maggie's ranch, Samantha glanced at Ghost in her mirror. They had won this battle, but the war? It wasn't over yet. The old wooden gate groaned as Samantha pulled into Maggie's ranch, a secluded property nestled deep in the Nevada wilderness. The sky was pitch black, the only light coming from the flickering barn lamps. Ethan parked the trailer beside the largest paddock and stepped out, rolling his sore shoulders. Well, that was one hell of a ride. Samantha barely heard him. Her eyes were locked on Ghost. Despite the chaos of the past hour, the stallion stood calm in the trailer, his golden eyes scanning the unfamiliar land. He knew they had escaped, for now. Maggie, a no-nonsense woman in her 50s with silver-streaked hair, emerged from the barn, wiping her hands on a rag. "What kind of trouble did you bring me this time, Sam?" Samantha forced a smile. "The worst kind." Maggie's gaze flickered to Ghost. "That's him, huh? The one they're after?" Samantha nodded. "And they're not giving up." Maggie sighed. "Then let's make sure they don't find him." They unloaded Ghost, leading him into a secured paddock behind the barn. The area was surrounded by thick trees, hidden from the main road. The fences were tall, reinforced with steel posts. "This should hold him," Maggie said. Samantha glanced at Ghost. "I'm more worried about holding off the people looking for him." The next morning, Samantha sat at Maggie's kitchen table, sipping coffee and scrolling through the database of missing and stolen horses. She had barely slept. Something about this wasn't adding up. Ghost had been dumped at an auction for almost nothing, but then armed men risked everything to take him back? Why? A soft chime broke the silence. A new email from Detective Laura Reyes. Samantha's stomach tightened as she clicked it open. Sam, we traced the brand on Ghost's neck. You were right. He was part of a secret equine research program shut down 5 years ago. But here's the real problem. He wasn't just a test subject. He was their most valuable one. Samantha's heart pounded. She kept reading. The facility was experimenting with high-performance racehorses. They weren't just training them. They were using illegal neuroenhancement techniques to heighten intelligence, memory, and predictive abilities. Ghost was the only surviving horse from their final experiment. Samantha exhaled sharply. That explained everything. His unnatural awareness. His ability to anticipate movement, read people, and react before danger struck. That's why they wanted him back, because Ghost wasn't just a horse. He was proof that their illegal experiment worked. She scrolled further. Whoever is after him isn't just trying to reclaim an expensive racehorse. They're trying to erase the last piece of evidence. Samantha's blood ran cold. She glanced out the window toward the paddock. Ghost stood near the fence, his ears twitching as if he could hear her thoughts. For the first time since she had brought him home, she understood what he was running from. And she knew that running wouldn't be enough. Ethan burst through the door, his face pale. Sam, you need to see this. She followed him outside. A small black drone hovered just beyond the tree line, silent, watching. Ethan grabbed his shotgun, aiming at the machine, but before he could fire, the drone zipped upward and disappeared into the sky. Maggie cursed. They've found us. Samantha clenched her fists. Then we don't wait for them to come. We go after them first. That evening, Samantha sat at the barn office, a map of Nevada spread across the table. Ethan paced behind her. You're talking about walking into a trap. We don't have a choice, Samantha muttered. They're not going to stop. If we wait, they'll come here, and I won't let them take him. Ethan crossed his arms. What's the plan? Samantha tapped a set of coordinates that Laura had traced from the tracker they found. This is where their last known facility was. Maggie raised an eyebrow. And you think they're still operating there? Samantha's jaw tightened. We're about to find out. The facility was deep in the mountains, hidden behind miles of rugged terrain. Samantha, Ethan, and Maggie parked a mile away, trekking the rest on foot under the cover of darkness. They reached the perimeter, an old fenced compound with barely any lights. Ethan grumbled. Too quiet, this feels wrong. Samantha ignored the fear creeping up her spine. She pulled out her phone, snapping pictures of the abandoned barns, the rusted-out trailers, the remnants of a once thriving operation. Then she saw it. A shipping container, locked with a freshly installed security keypad. Someone was still using this place. Samantha crept closer. Through a small gap in the metal walls, she could see stalls. And inside them, horses. Her breath caught. Ghost wasn't the only one. There were others, still trapped, still waiting to be rescued. Before she could react, headlights flashed behind them. A black SUV roared through the trees. Ethan grabbed her arm. Run! The compound erupted in chaos. Men spilled out of the SUV shouting. Samantha, Ethan, and Maggie sprinted toward the woods, their boots pounding against the dirt. Gunfire cracked through the night. Samantha dove behind an old feed bin, her heart slamming against her ribs. We need to get out of here, Ethan yelled. Samantha's mind raced. She couldn't leave the horses. Then, a scream from the compound. One of the men shouted, They're loose! The horses. A thunderous sound shook the ground. Samantha peered around the bin. The horses had broken free. A powerful stallion, his coat a striking grey, almost silver, charged forward, ramming into one of the men. Others followed, hooves slicing through the dust as they scattered in every direction. The men panicked, scrambling to regain control. Samantha didn't hesitate. She ran. Ethan pulled the truck up near the tree line and she leaped into the back. As they sped off, Samantha turned to see the facility burning. One of the horses had kicked over a lantern, setting the dry grass ablaze. The fire spread fast, engulfing the evidence of Ghost's past. And then, out of the smoke, a lone black stallion emerged. Ghost. His golden eyes met hers for the briefest moment. Then he turned and disappeared into the night, free at last. The fire raged in the rearview mirror, a swirling inferno of orange and black consuming the facility that had stolen Ghost's past. Samantha gripped the truck's door handle, her knuckles white as she fought to catch her breath. The night had been chaos. Now all that remained was silence. Ethan drove with one hand, the other resting on the wheel as he stole glances at her. "You okay?" Samantha exhaled sharply. No. They had done what they set out to do. They had exposed the truth. They had freed the horses. But they had lost Ghost. He had disappeared into the night, his powerful black figure swallowed by the wild. Samantha clenched her jaw. "Turn around," Ethan frowned. "Sam, I'm not leaving him," she said, her voice firm. Ethan sighed, but turned the truck around. Samantha had made Ghost a promise, and she wasn't about to break it. The early morning light crept over the Nevada hills, painting the sky in streaks of soft pink and gold. Samantha and Ethan had been searching for hours, driving down every remote dirt road near the facility's ruins. They found hoof prints in the mud. They found broken branches where something large had moved through the brush, but no sign of Ghost. Maggie's voice crackled over the radio. "Any luck?" Samantha hesitated before responding. "Not yet." Maggie sighed. "Sam, maybe he doesn't want to be found." Samantha swallowed hard. She knew that was a possibility, but she refused to accept it. Ghost had spent his whole life running. Maybe now he just didn't know how to stop. Dark clouds gathered over the mountains by midday. The wind picked up, howling through the canyons, carrying the scent of an oncoming storm. Samantha was about to suggest heading back when she saw it. A flash of black against the grey horizon. Her heart leaped. There! Ethan hit the brakes. Samantha threw open the door and jumped out, running toward the distant figure. Ghost stood at the edge of a rocky outcrop, his muscles tense, his head high. Samantha slowed her steps, her breath catching in her throat. She could see it in his eyes. He was torn. Should he trust her? Should he let her get close? Or should he keep running? The sky rumbled. Thunder echoed across the valley. Ghost flinched. A single raindrop landed on Samantha's arm. Then another. She took a slow step forward, holding her hands out. "It's okay, boy. I'm here." The wind picked up, whipping through her hair. Ghost stomped a hoof, agitated. His nostrils flared. Samantha stayed still. She let the silence stretch between them, let the storm rage around them. Finally, Ghost lowered his head. Samantha's chest tightened. He was letting her in. The rain came down in sheets. Samantha was soaked, but she didn't care. She took another step forward, then another, closing the distance between them. Ghost didn't move away. Slowly, carefully, she reached out, and for the first time, he didn't flinch. Her fingers brushed against his damp coat. Warm, solid, real. She exhaled shakily. "I've got you." For a long moment, they just stood there, man and horse, trusting, understanding. Samantha knew she had a choice to make. She could take him back to the ranch, back to the safety of Silver Sky, or she could let him go. Ghost had survived everything, the cruelty, the fear, the people who had tried to control him. He had earned his freedom. She swallowed hard, her throat tight. The words almost felt too heavy to say. "You're free." Ghost blinked, his golden eyes searching hers. Then, ever so slowly, he stepped forward, and he nuzzled her hand. Samantha gasped softly. It was the first time he had ever willingly touched her. She let out a small, tearful laugh. "All right, boy," she whispered. "Let's go home." Back at Silver Sky, Ghost settled into his paddock, not as a prisoner, but as a choice. He no longer paced. He no longer flinched at every sound. And for the first time since she had met him, he let Samantha ride him. It wasn't easy. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. As they rode together under the setting sun, Samantha felt something shift inside her. Ghost wasn't just another rescue. He was a survivor. And in a way, so was she. 2 weeks later, Samantha received an unmarked letter in the mail. No return address, no name, just a single piece of paper. This isn't over. Samantha's heart pounded. She crumpled the note in her fist. Then she turned toward the paddock, where Ghost stood, his golden eyes watching her. Calm, steady, unbroken. Samantha exhaled. Let them try. Ghost wasn't going anywhere. Neither was she.